Zimmerman's murder trial continues here on Channel 9 and WFTV.com. We are in a lunch recess right now, Bill, after a pretty good morning. Two witnesses have been brought forth by the state. One has completed her testimony, Jane Serdyka, known as Witness 18. She talked about what she heard and what she saw to some degree the night of Trayvon Martin's killing. Your thoughts to what she said, and was the defense able to generate some inconsistencies in the eyes of the jurors?
As we have seen so many times with these witnesses, she was very good for the prosecution. It was clear that she was under the excitement, the stress of the excitement of the shooting. What she was saying certainly has an indication of reliability because of that. And she was good for the state. But there were problems because in cross-examination it was clear that the defense was able to raise some clouds, some conflict in her testimony, and that the jury can take into consideration.
They can base their weight and credibility on the witness, on some of those things that were happening in her life and that stress. Let's talk about the person who is right now on the witness stand, Jeannie Manalo. She will come back and continue the questioning from Mark O'Mara, and he, again, we can see clearly that he wants to undermine her testimony, saying that she thought the larger person was on top. Then when asked, how did you determine the larger person was on top, she said that she didn't know at the time but saw on TV, and the picture she referred to was Trayvon Martin in the hooded sweatshirt, which is a head and shoulders picture.
Yeah, Mark O'Mara is laying the groundwork right now to show that the photograph that she used in determining the size of the person that was on the bottom, she says Trayvon Martin, one was an incomplete picture of Trayvon Martin. It was one, I believe, that was taken from the chest up.
It's the one with the hood that we've shown on TV so many times.
It's that famous hoodie photograph it's been referred to. And secondly, he is now laying the groundwork that that photograph, that hoodie picture photograph, was taken a few years earlier, maybe as much as 4 or 5 to 6 years earlier, and so that is not a proper basis for comparison. That may undercut her testimony regarding the position of the parties.
We're showing the picture now. We're showing some of the other pictures. The hoodie picture, she even said in court, in cross-examination by Mark O'Mara, that it was, head and shoulders, yet she referred to that he was smaller in size. This is the Hollister picture that you heard Mark O'Mara reference. She said she had no recollection of that, but did have recollection of a picture where he was wearing a green football-type outfit. We're looking in our archives, and we'll bring that to you if they don't show it in court. Why did Mark O'Mara at that time not present the jury a gotcha moment like, well, ma'am, do you understand that he was 12 or 13 years old at the time of that picture, and he was 17 years old and more than 6 feet tall at the time of his death?
Well, there's two reasons. One, by the way, if he says, are you aware that he was, and I'm just going to use an age, 11 years old or 12 years old in that picture, the prosecution may object, that's hearsay. That is not a fact that's in evidence yet, which would require O'Mara to call a witness that could testify as to how old he was in Trayvon Martin in that photograph. But secondly, it may be that what you do is you lay that groundwork, and then at the end you say to your jury in final arguments, you spring the trap then. Ladies and gentlemen well, no, not gentlemen, ladies of the jury.
Well, there'll be a gentleman still alive in the jury pool.
Yeah, but he won't. Yeah, he'll hear final arguments. Yes, you're right. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, the picture that this witness used for comparison, he was 11 or 12 years old, and let the jury know that time. So many people, by the way, to your point, have been blogging and saying, why don't these lawyers point out the following? In other words, follow through with their line of question and spring that trap. Oftentimes it's better to spring that trap, if you will, in your closing arguments, because you then don't have the witness there that can waffle around or try to rehabilitate themselves, or have the state try to rehabilitate them. You save it for final argument when there is no more testimony that can come forward before that jury.
Let's not forget either that we still have dozens of witnesses, both by the defense and the state, several weeks until the closing arguments happen. So to make something as fresh in someone's mind as possible, saving it to your point. You mentioned ladies and gentlemen of the jury and then corrected yourself. Of course, it's an all-women jury that will decide the fate of George Zimmerman. 6 will ultimately cast the vote. The remaining 3 now, alternates, don't know they're alternates. I say 3. You're saying, wait a minute, there's 4 alternates. 1 was excused today. He's the one-arm pull-up guy who had a dark view of the media, felt as though he was trying to be brainwashed by the media. It was a reason outside the course of what his duties were here that got him excused, but he won't be back, Bill.
Yeah, it doesn't matter what the reason he was excused was. He won't be back. Why is that? You and I were talking in the break about that. The jurors have to be there once they're sequestered and hear the evidence. If a juror is absent for any reason, for any part of the evidence, they're gone because they have to be there to hear it and see it live. There's no such thing as an instant replay or a recap. B-72
is the one who has been excused for the remainder of this trial. There's still 1 male alternate, a middle-aged E-54, and then 2 women as well that make up the jury pool. They are sitting again in that jury box that we've seen over and over again, and there's a look at the alternates that are there. Bill, this goes to the point that you said earlier during jury selection, why Deborah Nelson asked for 4 alternates, which is a large number, one that you said you rarely see. Typically, there'd be 1 alternate, and all of a sudden, if that were the case, we would have no alternates here with 3 more weeks of testimony.
And if one of the regular jurors then were to fall ill or be excused for some reason, you can't have a verdict of 5, mistrial, start from Jump Street all over again.
So again, to Deborah Nelson's caution, there's another good example of the way that she has worked through this case, including her jury questionnaire, which you've applauded her for, which eliminated quickly 70 potential jurors on the first day without them even coming upstairs, and now having 4 alternates still gives some wiggle room with 3 alternates. Is that, in your opinion, is that enough? Are we good to go, or do you, foresee any other problems? They're sequestered.
I think we're good to go. It is a little disconcerting that we're not even into a week's worth of what is anticipated to be 2 to 3 weeks testimony, that we've lost 1 alternate, but I certainly wouldn't press the panic button at this point in time, think that the number of alternates we have left. I'm not aware of a situation where more than 3 jurors have been excused. I don't think we're going to see it in this case either.
Good news there. We also found out first thing this morning, right at 9 o'clock, it pays to, be tuning in right at 9 because she's throwing out a lot of rulings right there at the top of the hour, even a few minutes before. And Judge Deborah Nelson not only talked about the juror being excused first thing this morning, she also said the 911 calls that we've discussed here for the last couple of days are in. Those 5 calls to the non-emergency line, not on the night of Trayvon Martin's killing or death, but instead the calls that he made that the state wanted in, they are in, and they'll be played before the jury.
They will. And before I talk about that, I want to talk about the fact that you said rulings come early in the morning. I don't see how anyone cannot start watching this trial from the first thing in the morning and not watch it until the end and not watch it from this point all the way through. It is so exciting, and things happen every day that just high drama in this courtroom. This is one heck of a trial that we're seeing here, conducted by 2 professionals at the height and zenith of their career. You will not have another opportunity maybe in your lifetime to see what you're witnessing here in this courtroom now. Mm-hmm. And you're right. The 911 tapes are coming in because it goes to Zimmerman's state of mind. The prosecution is certainly going to say that when Trayvon Martin and Zimmerman had contact with one another, what was Zimmerman's state of mind? He was frustrated because of prior burglaries, and out of his own mouth he has said, these guys, or words of like effect, always get away. And the state's going to argue this one, that this person that Zimmerman perceived as a threat to his community wasn't going to get away.
The one thing, though, that those on the blog, and we've had hundreds of thousands on the blog during the Casey Anthony case. Here's a live look at the courthouse here in Seminole County on 1792. The bloggers for Casey Anthony were really You know, most of them against Casey Anthony. It was very one-sided. This, on the other hand, we're seeing is just the opposite. Those who are, I would say, pro-George Zimmerman are saying, wait a minute, those calls show that he's a calm neighborhood watch leader who was just contacting them as instructed to let the police know of suspicious activity in his neighborhood. And so we're seeing really quite a dynamic. Some are saying, aha, those prove his state of mind, and others saying, yeah, it proves that he's a calm guy just doing his job.
And that's why, with all due respect to the bloggers, none of them would have been selected for this jury. Not that they wouldn't be good jurors in some other case, but we spent 2 weeks trying to get jurors that do not have a fixed opinion. And it's okay that you have a fixed opinion, certainly. And the information you receive is either going to support that opinion or you're going to discount it. But these jurors don't have that luxury of having an opinion. They have to be pristine in their thought about this case. They are, and they're the ones that will take the jury instructions, apply the law, and come up with what they believe is a just verdict.
Again, we've heard the phrase 2 to 4 week trial. Bill, now that 5 911 calls are in, but the 2 experts regarding the key 911 call, and that's the one with the screaming, and 2 of those experts who said they could tell it was Trayvon Martin's voice, they even heard a biblical verse, they will not testify. But 5 more calls brought in and dissected one at a time to the non-emergency number, and we would assume that that non-emergency operator may be there as well as a witness of the defense. Do you think that this elongates the trial and the testimony, or was this planned for in that 2 to 4 week plan? Do you think we're now closer to 3.5, 4 weeks?
I think we're still close to the 2.5 to 3 weeks, based upon the best intelligence information I can get from the camps at this point. But what I did like about some of this testimony, and what you have to remember, is that the jurors will hear the 911 tape where the screams are audible and the cries for help. And they will be able to conclude if it sounds like a younger person or it sounds like George Zimmerman in distress. They'll be able to make that determination themselves. But certainly then, in making that determination, it may make it consistent. It may be consistent with the opinions that witness Sedeka, is that how you pronounce that name? Isn't that Sedeka?
Witness Serdika.
Yes, testified to. So there's just many things going on many levels, and this is quite a dynamic proceeding as it unfolds.
Okay, we're still awaiting the end of the lunch recess. We're monitoring the cameras in the courtroom. Just moments ago, as I was watching our live feed, I saw George Zimmerman and some of the other parties come back into court. Judge Deborah Nelson is not back yet, and of course the jury is not back yet either. This was supposed to end at 1:10. It's now 1:17, so we're a few minutes tardy there coming back from lunch. But again, we anticipate what will be another emotional afternoon in court. We saw the wiping of tears from Tracy Martin and Sabrina Fulton when some of those 911 calls were being played. This morning, they were quite emotional for even people who don't have a family member that was involved in this. We're going to take a quick break, come right back with Judge Deborah Nelson and our afternoon session right here on Channel 9 and WFTV.com.